You know what I love about Bengaluru? The public parks. Apart from the iconic Cubbon Park and Lal Bagh, the city has 1,200 plus public parks and green spaces. And yet, as Bengaluru faces an unusually hot summer, step out at 1 p.m. and try to go to one of these parks. Chances are, you will find a locked gate. Mumbai, Delhi, and cities across India are doing the exact same thing, keeping parks locked in the afternoons. But parks are more than decorative. They act as a lifeline for people in the brutal heat that we are facing. I'm Lavanya, and in this episode of The Climate Brief, we are asking, why aren't public parks open to the public when we need them the most? Let me start with some drama. At the center of the drama are Bengaluru's 1,200 public parks, maintained by the BBMP. For years, these parks were open only during morning and evening hours and remained shut throughout the afternoon. Now for the characters of the story. Meet Team Open Parks. Residents and outdoor workers who want parks to be more accessible through the day. But their opposition, Team Leave It Closed. These are the resident welfare associations and a few other residents who argue that longer hours lead to misuse, antisocial activities, and makes maintenance and management more difficult. Then, of course, there are the MLAs who are caught in the middle, divided on their stance based on the demands and pressures of their own constituencies. So in 2024, the Karnataka government announced that all of Bengaluru's parks would remain open from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. Deputy CM D.K. Shivakumar specifically said that the extension would help working people and pushed back against the antisocial elements argument directly. Cut to December 2025. The Bengaluru South City Corporation issued a new order. Park timings were now 5 a.m. to 11 a.m. and 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., locking parks through the hottest hours of the day. Even outside South Bengaluru, where the 2024 order technically still holds, on-ground implementation is patchy at best. So in 2026, citizens are back to square one. Since January, hundreds of residents from South Bengaluru have been writing to the Greater Bengaluru Authority Chief Commissioner. They have three simple demands. Number one, reinstate operating hours for parks so they remain open throughout the day between 5 a.m. and 10 p.m., including the peak afternoon hours of 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Number two, ensure that there is strict implementation of these timings on ground with clear signage so that people are aware. And number three, let parks formally function as accessible cooling and resting spaces during the day, particularly for workers and residents who have no other shaded public space to turn to. The Heat Watch Foundation, along with 75 plus residents, have been running audits collecting photos from 15 to 16 parks that show locked gates in the afternoon. And this time, the same leader who extended timings 2 years ago now left the decision to individual MLAs. So that's the drama. But let me tell you why this fight is incredibly important. Citizens have highlighted how closing parks during peak afternoon hours has serious public health implications at a time when urban heat exposure is becoming a public health concern. Though our popular imagination of parks is as beautiful spaces for morning walks or evening strolls, they are a lifeline, far bigger than we can imagine. First, parks act as cooling spaces, especially in the summer. You walk into any park and I am sure you have felt the temperature drop instantly just from the shade of the trees around you. Open public parks literally act as an oasis in the midst of urban heat islands that are becoming increasingly common. Research found that street segments in Bengaluru with tree canopy had afternoon air temperatures up to 5.6 degrees cooler and road surface temperatures up to 27.5 degrees lower than streets without any canopy. A 2025 Greenpeace audit of parks in Delhi showed how the difference between a shaded park and the concrete right outside it can be as high as 18 to 20 degrees on a hot afternoon. So when the temperature is 38 degrees outside and you are walking on the road, parks can actually offer you some respite from the heat, even if it's just for a few minutes. And most importantly, urban parks have been proven to directly mitigate the urban heat island effect, making them one of the most effective solutions cities have left to fight rising temperatures. Second, it provides shelter for those who need it the most. For most of us, when it gets unbearably hot, we can go home, switch on the AC, or sit in a cafe. In fact, doctors routinely advise people to avoid stepping out during peak afternoon hours precisely because of the risk of heat exhaustion or heat stroke. But for a construction worker, a domestic worker, a delivery rider, or a street vendor, people who are most vulnerable due to their prolonged exposure to the sun, that advice is simply not an option. Not having access to parks just makes them more vulnerable, forcing these workers to sit by the road instead, in the open, without shade, water, or any kind of protection from the heat. Why you need to care about this right now is simply because of how hot Bengaluru has become. This summer has been particularly brutal, with daytime temperatures rising between 36 and 38 degrees, and the city experiencing some of its most intense heat spells in years. For a city that is losing its green spaces and water bodies at a rapid pace, every park that exists actually matters and is a critical resource in helping the city adapt to the heat. In fact, the Karnataka government too, in its Heat Action Plan of 2024, acknowledged the problem in Bengaluru and stated that parks must be made accessible during heat waves. Now, if you thought that this was a Bengaluru-specific problem, wrong. Across India's major cities, the pattern is identical. In Mumbai, for example, parks are shut through the afternoon hours when it's supposed to stay open through the day. Though BMC issued an order in 2019 to keep parks open from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m., it was rolled back in 2023, limiting access during afternoon hours. In Delhi, a 2025 Greenpeace India park audit found that 74% were closed at some point during the day, and 8 out of 10 had no drinking water facilities for the public at all. But not everything is all too bad. Ahmedabad is a great example of what happens when a city cares about its public parks. When Ahmedabad introduced India's first heat action plan in 2013, making public parks accessible was one of the key initiatives. Every summer, governments discuss how best to tackle heat, what new infrastructure to build to support the most vulnerable, like AC rest lounges for gig workers in Chennai, new cooling centers and new shelters in Delhi and Mumbai. While these efforts are important, we should not leave out using existing infrastructure. Public parks are one of the most low-cost, low-effort solutions we have, and access to these spaces is directly linked to public health, climate resilience, inclusion, and dignity. So here is what you can do right now. Step outside and check whether your neighborhood park is open during the afternoon hours. If it is not, write to your ward councillor or your MLA and ask for that to be changed. If you like this story, you will love our channel. Subscribe for more.